Here are the best waiver wire pickups for Week 10. I'm recording this before Monday Night Football, but Jaylen McMillan should already be rostered. He topped this list a few weeks ago, 35.6% rostered in the ESPN Fantasy Leagues, but he still, I think, is going to be one of the top options on this offense. I know he only had 9 fantasy points in a week. We expected him to get 15 plus. Don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I really love his upside on a week-to-week basis with no Mike Evans and no Chris Godwin. 2, Taysom Hill, 26.8% rostered in ESPN Fantasy Leagues. 2 of his last 3 games, 14 plus fantasy points. He's eligible for multiple positions depending on what format you play. I believe in the Yahoo Leagues, he's quarterback eligible as well. Should be running back eligible as well, to be honest. But tight end on a week-to-week basis, I mean, there's some fluctuation with that position. Kate Otten, if he's gone, obviously, at this point, and other tight ends, and you need a streaming guy, Taysom Hill's a guy I'd look at. Ricky Pearsall's next, 11.7 fantasy points last week. Debo has an oblique strain. I don't know if he'll be back when they play Tampa. I know Christian will be back, McCaffrey, but remember, Brandon Ayuk's out for the season, so there have to be more, there's guys that are going to step up, and Pearsall's one of those guys. Obviously, Jawan Jennings is another guy, but he's 60% rostered in leagues, so I doubt he's available, which is why he's not on this list. Drake May is a streaming option at quarterback that I like on a week-to-week basis because of his rushing upside. Sure, 14 average fantasy points isn't great, but I think his rushing upside, if you're down bad at quarterback, definitely a guy to look at. Mike Gesicki is a solid streaming option at tight end on a week-to-week basis. Certainly has upside in that high-powered offense, coming off of 27 fantasy points, only rostered in 10.8% of ESPN Fantasy Leagues. This is Demarcus Robinson. The reason why he's this low on the list, despite back-to-back 17-plus fantasy point games, is because Puka Nacua should be back next week. I know he got ejected, and Cooper Kupp, fully healthy. And yes, they were both technically fully healthy. I know Puka was listed as limited, but he had like 100 yards when DeMarcus had 17 fantasy points last week against the Vikings, right? He's a touchdown guy. He has a rapport with Matthew Stafford, probably a solid flex option on a week-to-week basis, but it's not without downside. Like, there's a complete possibility of him getting a 0 fantasy point game with that wide receiver room now healthy. Now, Xavier Legette should be rostered everywhere, 32.6% rostered in ESPN Fantasy Leagues, pretty much in competitive leagues, right? But back-to-back weeks, I believe, with the touchdown, or at least 2 of the last 3, has a rapport with Bryce Young, certainly a flex option on a week-to-week basis. I know he was on this list earlier in the season, but QJ had a great performance. I want to see if it's sustainable. Like, Justin Herbert had a great day. He's been playing great, but Ladd's the undisputed wide receiver 1. I still like Johnson as, like, if you have a last-minute flex play, you need to slot in. Like, he certainly has upside on a week-to-week basis. And keep an eye on Kahlil Herbert at the trade deadline. Could get traded to the Cowboys. I know he was inactive for the Bears. He's not playing, but I think he's better than Rico Dowdle. So if he goes to Dallas, he could be a sneaky start in a few weeks, assuming they don't share a lot of touches and it becomes Herbert in the last few weeks of the season if guys get hurt and you need a solid flex play. Other guy I like is Trey Benson, but remember, I mean, James Conner's a workhorse running back, so unless he gets hurt, Benson's upside is limited on a week-to-week basis. I like Ray Davis too, but remember, he's limited behind James Cook. I know he's implemented this offense, but he's still limited. He's not a touchdown guy. James Cook is, and James Cook's also involved in the passing game, which limits his upside on a week-to-week basis. Did I miss anybody? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to follow for RB rankings for this week coming out tomorrow.